Hello YouTube, this is Neon. Today I would like to share how I became pro-choice after literally 20-something years of being pro-life. I had seen a Nova documentary on the pro-life, pro-choice debate, and this whole culture wars thing that had been going on. And much of this documentary, they were interviewing Dr. C. Everett Koop. Dr. C. Everett Koop was the famous Surgeon General under Reagan, who is probably to this day the most well-known pro-lifer. Okay. Yet he was very critical of the pro-life movement. Somewhere between like 1989 or 1990 or perhaps 1991, a film or a documentary came out called The Silent Scream. What The Silent Scream was, it was a sonogram style recording of a late-term abortion where essentially the unborn child is cut in pieces and sucked out into a vacuum. And it's a pretty hazy, grainy, just like a sonogram is. But there's a point or two where in the sonogram it was pretty clear that the unborn child is actually trying to move away from these, whatever these tools are that are used to take the unborn child apart. So when The Silent Scream came out, as I understand it, it was shown to Congress, the US public became aware of it, and public opinion really went against abortion. Dr. C. Everett Koop said that when this happened, he said that feminists really became willing to take abortion off as their main, I guess, platform for fighting for women's rights, as long as abortion was maintained legal and safe in the case of rape, incest, and the life of the mother. However, Dr. C. Everett Koop said that the pro-life movement wasn't going to have it. The pro-life movement wanted all abortion to be illegal, and it didn't matter the life of the mother, rape, or incest. None of that mattered. They weren't even willing to compromise there. He said that as a result, feminists wound up fighting tooth and nail in spite of the silent scream. And he said that they wound up winning what essentially is abortion on demand within the first trimester and probably the first 2 trimesters of pregnancy. And this is taking into account that there was this so-called gag law in which people couldn't even counsel women to get abortions. That was one of the outcomes of the silent scream. So here you had pro-lifers making advances, but those advances weren't enough for pro-lifers. Pro-lifers wanted it all. They wanted all abortion illegal, and they didn't care of the circumstances. So when I saw this extreme, and I lived this, by the way, I lived this in high school, I realized, well, that is extremism, and extremists tend to go from one extreme to the other. One, they impose their will on everybody else. The amount of suffering doesn't matter. It's their dogma. It's their belief system that matters. One, or two, they piss everybody off, and so the exact opposite extreme happens, which is people get to do the exact opposite of what the extremists want. Extremism is not good. And for them, for pro-lifers, and many pro-lifers are like this today, by the way, to say that abortion shouldn't be safe and legal, even in the case of rape, incest, and the life of the mother, that is extremism. To me, that's awful. And yet I was one of these extremists at one time. In high school, right around the time that the silent scream came out, a loved one was pregnant, and I didn't know anything about pregnancy or what an abortion was. I knew that an abortion ended a pregnancy. And I mean, she was like third trimester. And I was like, girl, you need to get an abortion. She was in a very bad way and didn't have money and all this stuff. So when my family found out, they kind of demonized me. Like, how could you tell her to do that? And I was like 17 or 18. I didn't know. But it made me wonder about abortion. So I had never seen the silent scream, but I had heard about it. And I remember arguing with one young woman who became very staunchly pro-life because of the silent scream. And we were debating it because initially I was very pro-abortion. I didn't know what pro-choice meant. And she got very emotional and her face turned red, and I just stopped debating with her. And I remember seeing her so many years later, and I told her, you know, I've changed views. I'm pro-life now. And she told me, she's like, I'm pro-choice now. I've had an abortion since then. I was like, huh? Anyway, so really seeing that extremism in part has led me to become pro-choice. I even think partial birth abortion should be legal. You know, as Senator Boxer said, under special circumstances, those should be available to women. It's very rare. That's not the typical abortion. The abortion, the silent scream, is not the typical abortion. I don't know I don't know if that was a third trimester or a second trimester abortion, but it was a later abortion. And most abortions take place in the first trimester, like 90%. So there's no cutting and taking apart of a child. Regardless of the imagery, I don't care. I'm pro-choice. I'm pro-choice. I think that not attacking men is a problem with the pro-life movement. They just attack women. Women didn't get pregnant alone. If they were trying to attack men, I might be more like sympathetic to pro-lifers. But they're not calling for men to be DNA tested so that whenever a woman's confronted with an unwanted pregnancy, they can find who the biological father of that child is, and that biological father has to pay for at least half of her medical bills and that child's upraising till the age of 18. They're not attacking men. They're not attacking men. They're only attacking women. Women don't get pregnant alone. There's an issue there. Many very orthodox religious people, they really don't care about people. There was a study done that said that the more religious and the more conservative people are about their religion, really the less compassionate that they are towards other human beings. And the study really had enough people participate from the Christian religion as well as from the Muslim or Islam religion to say that with these two religions, they can say for show that the more right-wing, the more extremist they get, the less compassionate they are to people, or the less kind they are to people and merciful. And I'm saying that because many Christians, their attitude towards women are they shouldn't be allowed to get abortions, but if they have the baby, they shouldn't be allowed to get any government support. So they put women in this catch-22 situation that's very oppressive. Women who are stuck with a child that they don't want, that they can't take care of, and they should get no public assistance for. And yet, many right-wing extremist Christians, they don't want women getting abortions either. That's not humane. That's not kind. That's not being respectful to women. I don't want to be like that. There was a time when, yeah, I had that extremist pro-life, I would call it really anti-choice and anti-women view, that even in the life of the mother, rape, or incest, it's not the child's fault, so the woman should have to have the baby regardless. And why should the unborn child have to pay? I know that there's a verse, and I'm sad that I ever held that view, but I certainly don't hold it now. There's a verse in the Bible where it talks about how if a man hits a woman who's pregnant and she loses the baby, that he's supposed to pay the family a fee. I think it's to pay the husband of the pregnant woman a fee for losing that unborn child. So to me, in the Bible, I don't really see the Bible anything to say that a fertilized egg is equal to a human being. And we have that in this country, that if someone does something where a woman loses her unborn child, there is some price to pay. But we don't acknowledge an unborn child as a full human being. So I feel comfortable with it. I think that if people want to force women to get abortion or to have children, they should be willing to pay all their medical bills and pay for the upkeep of that child for 18 years. Who are they to say otherwise? Who are they to say you can't have a child, or you must have a child? You can't have an abortion. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous. In the case of like women who are pregnant with children who have Down syndrome, 90% of women in such a situation choose abortion, and that's their right to do so. I would like to be in a situation where if a woman wants to keep her child and only wants to get an abortion because she can't afford the medical care for a child with Down syndrome, I would love to be in a case or in a situation where I could completely help her, because I know now that taking care of a child with Down syndrome properly and with the medical care that's available today, it's exceedingly expensive. That baby can really be given a very high quality of life, and their ability to function can even be to the point of being able to get work. But the medical costs are extreme. And so I sympathize with women who choose to get an abortion, who are pregnant with a child who has Down syndrome, who has some kind of an extreme situation, because am I willing to pay those medical bills? If I was wealthy enough and a woman wanted to have her child, and that was the reason that she would choose to not have an abortion, I would help. But I'm not. I can't afford tens and hundreds and sometimes even millions of dollars so that a child can have a fighting chance at life under these extreme circumstances. So where I'm at today, from what I said on partial birth abortions, obviously I'm very pro-choice. For my religious reasons, yeah, I have reservations about abortion, but that's it. That opinion or those reservations stop at my nose. Meaning, I'm not going to sit there and try to force my religion or my reservations on not on my daughters, not on my sisters, not on any woman, not on any female friend. And I would be there to support, and I would be there if they wanted me to take them to an abortion clinic. I would be there to support them and not to criticize them. I think pro-choice is a very, very fundamental human right. And I don't think that women should be demonized for this, when women only represent half of who got pregnant, and yet are the reason that they got pregnant. And sometimes that's rape or incest, and so it's not even their choice to get pregnant. But men aren't attacked. Men aren't having to pay the price for this. So these are the reasons why I became pro-choice. I would never have thought I would have become pro-choice, but I have become pro-choice. And I'm pretty staunchly pro-choice. I would never vote for somebody who's not pro-choice. So, anyway, that's it. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, commercials, recommend my videos. And thanks for letting me share this piece of information about my life. Best wishes.